My home state of Kentucky is no stranger to the strange. The history and folklore of the Commonwealth is full of odd incidents, hauntings, and eerie encounters with uncanny, unnatural entities that continue to send shivers down the spines of wary campers huddled around the fire. While some people find it natural to chalk such tales up to backward thinking and the world-renowned local liquor, it is an undeniable fact that sometimes there is something more to the story. Among the most intriguing of these unusual cases is the Kelly-Hopkinsville Encounter of 1955. A famous staple of UFO and alien lore, this incident seems at first glance to be simply too bizarre to have any basis in reality. The truth, however, is not always as clear-cut as we might think. I'm Tyler Martin, and this is Monsters from the Id. August 21st, 1955. A hot summer's day in the city of Hopkinsville was drifting off to a quiet close when two automobiles came roaring up to the local police station, bearing a group of 11 terrified people with an extraordinary story to tell. Earlier that evening, in nearby Kelly Township, 9 members of the Sutton extended family and 2 others had been settling in for dinner at the farmhouse where most of them dwelled. Those present included the widowed family matriarch, Mrs. Glennie Langford, her eldest son, Elmer Lucky Sutton, and his wife, Vera, second son, J.C. Sutton, and his wife, Aline, Glennie's 3 younger children, Lonnie, Charlton, and Mary Langford, and Aline's brother, O.P. Baker. The family were joined by Lucky's friends, Billy Ray and June Taylor. Things started to take an unusual turn when Billy Ray went to the well to fetch some water. According to his testimony, a silvery object, real bright, with an exhaust all the colors of the rainbow, appeared overhead, moving silently across the darkening sky, and disappeared into a nearby gully where it seemed to land. When Taylor related his story to the others, the matter was laughed off as a joke. At most, they figured he had simply seen a meteor. Then, about 30 minutes later, the family dog began barking insistently. Lucky and Billy Ray went to the door to see what was the matter, whereupon the dog ducked under the house. It was at this point that the evening's weirdness began in earnest. A strange glow approached from the direction of the gully, and as it drew nearer, the men perceived a small humanoid creature, about 3 to 4 feet tall. Its head was disproportionately huge and featured large, pointed ears and glowing yellow eyes. It appeared to be made of a silver metal that produced an unearthly luminescence. As it slowly made its way toward the house, the being raised its hands, quote, as if someone had told him he was about to be robbed. In response, Lucky and Billy Ray did what any self-respecting country boys would do. They grabbed the guns and started shooting. When fired upon, the creature reportedly did a flip and disappeared into the darkness. Soon afterward, another creature appeared in the living room window, where it was seen by other members of the family. The men fired through the screen, apparently hitting the thing, with the same result as before. A flip, then off into the darkness. As Billy Ray stepped out to investigate, a clawed hand reached down from above and touched his hair. Lucky rushed out and fired at the creature, knocking it over the roof. Another being appeared on a nearby tree limb and was promptly shot down by both men, but instead of falling dead, it floated to the ground and scurried off. Yet another creature appeared around the corner of the house, which Lucky fired on at point-blank range. By his account, the resulting sound was like he had shot a metal bucket. As before, the entity flipped and escaped, apparently uninjured. The fracas continued for some time, when finally, at around 11 o'clock, the group piled into their vehicles and rushed to the police station in Hopkinsville to report the incident. However ludicrous the story might have seemed, the officers present were impressed by the unmistakable, unfeigned terror displayed by the witnesses and accompanied them immediately back to the scene. Word spread quickly, and newspaper staff and a group of MPs from nearby Fort Campbell also descended on the ranch. The investigators that night found no sign of alcohol. Mrs. Langford strictly forbade liquor on the premises. and nothing to suggest a deliberate hoax, but also no evidence to support the existence of the purported goblin-like entities, save for a small patch of grass, faintly luminous when viewed from a certain angle, where one creature was said to have been shot from a tree limb. Having completed the search with no concrete results, the police and the others dispersed. Hoping the excitement had ended, the Suttons tried to settle in for the night, but it was not to be. Mrs. Langford, trying to get some sleep, noticed one of the creatures at the window. In her words, close enough to put his little clawy hand up on it. She summoned the others. Lucky made ready to shoot, but Glennie begged him not to, reasoning that the creatures were doing them no harm. But Lucky, known for his hot temper, fired anyway, with the same outcome as earlier. The chaos finally ceased just before sunrise. The following day brought hordes of investigators, journalists, and curiosity seekers to the Sutton farmhouse. No sign was found of the little creatures or the UFO, but again, neither was there any indication of fabrication or a desire for publicity. With the exception of Billy Ray Taylor, who quite enjoyed the spotlight and embellished his account when prompted, the witnesses all gave remarkably consistent descriptions of the creatures and the events of the night, and clearly hated the attention they were getting. The coming days saw more and more members of the public inviting themselves to the property, despite repeated pleas from the family to go away and stay away. The local and national press seized on the story and presented heavily distorted versions of the eyewitness accounts. The little silver men became little green men. What seemed a small handful of creatures was inflated to a dozen or more, and the Suttons were met with scorn for cooking up such an outlandish tale. So what do we make of all this? As mentioned, the witnesses had no reason to lie about what had happened, and they were genuinely afraid when they came running to the police for help. There is a common habit of dismissing country folk as ignorant, superstitious, and prone to flights of imagination, but having grown up in rural Kentucky myself, I can personally attest that this stereotype does not always hold water. And indeed, some of the wisest and most trustworthy people I have ever known have come from backgrounds much like the Suttons. A number of theories have been offered to explain what the Suttons saw that night. Escaped circus monkeys, a mass hallucination, and so on, which frankly don't seem to carry weight. One suggestion, however, does fit many key elements of the story exceptionally well. Great horned owls, common in the area, share many notable features with the reported beings. Prominent pointed ears, large eyes that reflect yellow light at night, and an awkward gait when walking. The description of the arms, said to have been long, hanging almost to the ground and ending in large talons, could have resulted from a faulty perception of the wings. It was dark after all. These birds are fiercely territorial, and what is more, they mate for life, and thus are often seen in pairs, hence the presence of at least two. It is just possible that the Suttons' dog, whose incessant barking signaled the beginning of the night's mayhem, managed to disturb a pair, prompting them to approach the house. This theory would also go a long way toward explaining their ability to appear suddenly on a rooftop or a tree branch and float to the ground. But as much as this would seem to resolve, the owl hypothesis is not completely airtight. When disturbed, owls are well known to screech violently, but whatever the Suttons saw reportedly made no sound whatsoever, even when met with repeated gunfire. Owls are also not known to glow in the dark, and they are certainly not bulletproof. Yet despite being fired upon with a 12-gauge shotgun and 30-06 rifle on at least 2 occasions at point-blank range, these creatures appeared to have sustained no injuries. Furthermore, it seems odd that such a large group from a rural farming family, presumably well acquainted with the local fauna, could mistake a common owl for a little silver man. Then again, it is not impossible that, having had the suggestion of extraterrestrial visitors planted in their minds by Taylor's UFO sighting, they could have been seeing things not quite as they were. In addition, it has been noted that no tracks were found, no doubt due to the impenetrable firmness of the soil, as the area had been suffering from a long drought. A bullet ricocheting off the hard ground and striking the tin roof of the farmhouse could account for the metallic sound heard when one of the creatures was supposedly shot. I must stress that, like much that has been said about this incident over the years, this is pure conjecture. In any case, it would not explain the other weirdness of this remarkable account. So where does that leave us? Needless to say, it's hard to take a story like this at face value, but there are simply too many unknowns to draw a definite conclusion. The Suttons were reluctant to talk about the incident from the beginning, but when pressed through visible anger and bitterness, they stuck to their story down to the last detail and insisted that it was the truth. I, for one, am quite convinced that these people experienced something that terrified them to the core. And whether what they saw were owls, circus monkeys, or curious visitors from another world, one thing is certain: it's a great story if there ever was one. Let me finish by saying that I thoroughly enjoyed researching for this video, and I'm very glad to bring you this story from my own home state. You can find relevant links in the description. By all means, feel free to share your own thoughts on the matter in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more reflections in the realm of the weird and the monstrous. Once again, thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.